I will let everyone in. We're going live on Facebook. Mm-hmm.
Just let everyone in.
Yeah, we got a lot to start here, which is great. What's up, everybody? What's going on?
What's going on, guys? Nice to see familiar faces again.
I know I love the regulars that we create, right? I feel like I'm like running a restaurant and like that same, the same couples are strolling in, which is cool. And now it's like it just like, to your point, for instance, it was like, how do we get more regulars? Like it's like the people that come every week are the people that come every week. And it's actually amazing to see everyone's dedication week in and week out. It's like, I guess once people start coming, they don't normally stop, but it's getting them on. And I'll be honest with you, I do like the meeting sizes too. I'm not also trying to blow this out of the water. I mean, if it gets blown out of the water, I'm all about that too. Um, but I will say I do love the meeting sizes. They are intimate and stuff as it is. But no, thank you everyone for donating your time every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, rock and roll. And we're streaming on Facebook, and we know people are going to be rolling in as we go here. Today, we do have a guest star coming in. He'll be here in about 15 minutes. His name is Anthony Gonoa. You might have known him. He runs the Hive Mind community, and he's going to come and talk to us today about creative financing for land, which I know is huge for everybody. I know it's huge. A lot of my clients, right? I mean, Brian, I see you here. You're already nodding in excitement. Some of the things we just talked about, Brian, after our conversation. Um, I had like two other clients. So if it's okay with you, I actually used your video as
Yeah.
training to send to other. I was like, look, I was like, I don't even. We did some magic that day on the phone, and
Yeah.
I tried to replicate that magic on another call. I was like, I don't remember what I told Brian, but it rocked. So I'm just
Just reuse it.
exactly. But no, thank you. And that goes out to everyone. When you guys book meetings with me, um, I love it. What we cover in those meetings solves problems for everybody. And you'd be surprised, even though what I'm saying may sound like I'm an expert or like I've been doing it forever, that may be my first time really formulating these thoughts out loud. And so you guys give me new downloads, by bringing questions, by meeting with me on those one-on-ones. That's how Brian and I met. So if you have a campaign with us, I highly encourage booking at least one of those one-on-ones with me, whether it's just to meet and greet, to see what our processes are like, or whatever that is. I would definitely do that.
And Brian, the guest that we have today, he'll be a perfect person for you to ask questions to in regards to like big, massive tracts of land, because he specializes in just that. So
Yeah, that's perfect. And also, I'm finding a lot more creative financing deals need to be set up just because there's not as many cash buyers out there right now either.
Good point. And I see what you're saying, right? And what you just said there was it can be easier to move a creative finance lead than it is, looking for a cash buyer for the lead, right? Because now when we get it under creative finance, we can now sell it under creative finance. And that is
Yeah.
another huge benefit to it as well. That's a very good point. Yeah, we're going to start diving a little bit more creative finance. I got another creative finance guy who kills it with houses coming in a couple weeks too. I think one thing about creative financing is it's all about the language, right? I mean, I had a guy text me the other day and he goes, "Do you guys produce creative financing leads or just seller leads?" And I was like, I didn't say this to him, but I was like, I guarantee you no one's saying yes to creative financing on a first phone call, right? That's not a first phone call topic. They might be open to it, they may not be against it, right? But one thing I try to remind people about creative finance leads is we have to create those leads. We create it through rapport, we create it through communication. And I will say that creative finance, the language is really the most important part because we're navigating like a personal loan. And I don't know about you guys, but almost nobody has a good experience with a personal loan. Okay. Right? I have people that owe me $5,000 that I grew up with from the second grade. And you know what? They got the money now. right? And it's still never leaving their bank account, and it probably should have never left mine. That's a different story. But the point is, these people, they have bad experience in the past. So when we chat with them, it's about creating that security and all that other stuff. So creative financing is really cool. And that's why I'm excited to bring people on so we can hear how they do it. And everyone has a little bit of a different language that they use. And then it's up for us to build our perfect approach around that as well. But no, I thought that was interesting. I was like, we generate a seller lead, you then follow up, and you then hammer home the creative financing aspect.
And to piggyback on your point, Nick, I think one of the things that I'm excited about is learning creative financing gives you another tool in your tool belt to use in your arsenal, right? Because a lot of times people use the approach of either selling it to a builder or selling it to a buyer, but learning creative financing, even the little that I have been researching over the last couple of weeks, I'm actually excited to start implementing this in my own personal business too. So definitely, I would encourage, if you are not familiar with creative financing, definitely get familiar with it as well too. So
yeah. Yeah, and we just do it by starting, right? Whatever that looks like, starting just like you guys. So when I didn't know anything about real estate, and the day I started cold calling, I just did it, and I sucked. And I actually do have my first couple days of cold calling ever recorded. And I need to put them back on YouTube. I was horrible. I didn't have a script. I didn't know what I was saying. Within 3 months, I'd founded this company. So I went from like bumbling idiot to professional resource in 3 months. And the other perk there is just starting. I have this one of my best friends, and something I'm about to do, I'll kind of do a soft drip here. One of my best friends is an amazing therapist and personal coach. And she doesn't get the business part. She just gets the people part. And she's been like so beneficial to my life. So one of the things I'm going to be working on with her is I'm going to help her create a business, and it's like all I know about you guys, but every time I talk to her, my life gets better. And I think it's rare because so many people poise themselves as a coach or a therapist or all these other things, and they're really not, right? Or they're really not helping you. But I bring her up because I was just chatting with her today. I was like, we're going to get you a website. We're going to create 4 packages. And then when people call you, we're going to figure out what they need and we're going to go from there. It's like, oh, you make it sound so easy. And it's like, that's the point. Like when I was just getting started, it wasn't easy. But just like with you guys and your creative financing journey, the more reps we get in, the faster we get them in, the easier we make it look weeks from now or months from now. And I know I did see that Anthony jumped in here with us. What's up, Anthony, man? Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate you.
yes, sir. Nice to see you, Anthony.
My pleasure. I was just prepping the guys. We're having some seller finance, creative financing conversations, preparing for your topic today. But if you would, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who you are, where you come from, where we could find you, maybe outside of here, and then drop some nuggets on us.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks again, guys, for having me on. I'm a farm and ranch investor out of San Antonio, and I focused a lot on creative and seller finance too. So, you can go on MLS, which we do a lot of shopping right off MLS, and some of these ranches are listed for 2 million, 10 million. We come in like a 5, 10, 20% offer on the down, and then we just cut those properties up, we separate them out, and then we resell them for both cash and seller finance. So that's a primary business model. I'm based out here out of San Antonio. We buy and sell all over Texas. We have a couple of little deals going in Florida, some stuff in Arizona, but primarily in Texas. It's just the buyer pool here is tremendous. It's always growing. People are always moving here. But that's pretty much our basic business model.
Man. So I got a quick question because I'm excited for this one. Can't hold back my questions. So, all right. So I know a little bit about you in regards to like how you got started into real estate. I believe you were a general contractor before, right? So one of the main questions I always like to ask all of our guests is, in your previous experience before you got into real estate, right? What were some of the transferable skills that you took from general contracting, and how did you apply that over to real estate?
Okay, man. So I just got lucky, man. I like to say it's God, right? But still, it's still some sort of luck involved in there. I was wholesaling commercial real estate. So in the construction world, I would door knock, like literally skip trace and door knock building owners that had big giant commercial buildings. And I would try to find storm damage on the roof. And then I would help them navigate the process of suing the insurance company. And then I would take those funds. So let's say you have a roof that's worth, I don't know, 500,000. We would sue the insurance company. And then I would take those proceeds. So I had a really big roofing company and I didn't have any crews. So I didn't have any like equipment, no trailers, I had my own truck, but no in-house staff, no nothing. It was just me and my cell phone. So I sue the insurance company. Let's say they gave us 500,000. That whole build was only like 250. So about half of that was just profit, right? Profit and overhead, which I had none other than my insurance. And then I would just hire a third-party roofing company to go in there and put the roof on. So from the insurance, I would get, let's say the first check, they would send me 250,000. I would use that to pay all of the labor and pay all of the materials. And then after the roof was done, I would get the last remaining portion of the proceeds, and that was my money. So I was wholesaling commercial roofing before I even knew what wholesaling was. So there's one transferable skill, right? Getting a contract and then bringing in a third party to fulfill the contract. And then I have a marketing background. So I've been doing online and offline marketing for, pushing on 20 years now. So immediately getting into real estate, I probably had about, I don't know, 200 grand in my name. I spent about $30,000 in marketing, like as soon as I started, like in my first 30 days, because I knew that if I pushed enough traffic, that some of those leads would convert. So getting into real estate, I had never been to a title company. I had never been to a closing, never bought anything before, never been around anybody that bought anything before. So zero experience in real estate 5.5 years ago. And now I own over 400 acres. Probably have another 400 acres under contract, throughout Texas and smaller little tracts everywhere. I'm developing my first neighborhood of 200 lots and 200 3/4 acre lots. And I just locked up another 100 acres that I'm probably going to break ground on another neighborhood as well. So transferable skills is just marketing. I think that's probably the biggest blessing I had coming in here was marketing, and then basic knowledge of wholesaling, paper.
Sweet. Yeah, that's definitely transferable.
Yeah, it was, man, like I said, it was just a blessing. It was just the grace of God and just like a bunch of like crazy things that happened. But it all led me here. And then, now leading into real estate, I recommend everybody starts with just marketing. Like if you just market at mass, get around people like yourself who are doing it, JV opportunities with those people, right? Bring in people that are a little bit more knowledgeable than you. And then also raising capital, which I can go pretty heavy into, making capital available to your deals. So not only do you have the power to wholesale these deals and to, sell a lot of them, but some stuff shouldn't be wholesaled, right? Some stuff should be bought, developed, and engineered out, those kinds of things. So, there's a lot of different moving parts here that I think you guys are already capitalizing on.
Yeah. Right, sweet. And anybody else, if you guys have questions, you can either put them in the chat or raise your hand so you guys can ask your questions. Anthony has a wealth of knowledge for us to share. And I don't want to hoard up all the questions, so I definitely want to give you guys an opportunity to ask your question.
Yeah, I think these types of presentation, I don't have like a PowerPoint that I follow off of, but yeah, questions would help me go into some specifics. And then I could also just share other deals that I've recently done. I can tell you, I made about 1.2 million in the first 6 weeks of this year off of a single deal. And on that same transaction, after we build out that neighborhood and get all those lots sold, we have like another 10 to 12 million inbound on that one property. So I think we'll make like 8 to 9 million on this one deal.
Could you walk through that deal, Anthony?
Yes, it's 243 acres that we got here in San Antonio. It was listed on MLS for $2 million for about 6 months. So these deals don't move, right? Because they take so much creativity and capital to move these types of deals. So
what part of San Antonio was it?
Somerset. So it's just like maybe 10 minutes outside 1604 on the south side, southwest, south. So it's listed online for 2 million. We one of our students actually approached the agent and offered 20% down. So they offered $400,000 down, and then the rest on seller finance for 18 months with no interest at all. Right. So we went ahead and they accepted that we promised the agent. So this is what we do up front, guys. I'm going to give, this is a good nugget right here for negotiating on market deals. We get the seller's agent to go to work for us. Right. It's like insider trading. So we let the seller know that we could pay them their commission up front if they got the seller to accept our offer. So that way they didn't have to wait the 12 months or 18 months for us to close. They would take 100% of their commission at closing. So we needed 400 plus 60,000 to pay the agent at closing. So here's the magic, guys, in working big giant land transactions is I think the end game for real estate investors is selling money. Right. So you get to the point to where you're buying properties, you're wholesaling properties. I said this on Steve Trang's podcast on Real Estate Disruptors. I said the dumbest way to get rich in the real estate is to buy properties, sell them, and then reinvest your profits. It's the slowest path to growth, and it's a good way to die broke. Right. And that thing got like hundreds of thousands of views because people are like, this guy's an idiot. What's he talking about? But what I was pointing at, if you listen to the full interview, is that for me, real estate is a fundraising game, right? Because you can gamify the system and you can pretty much borrow any amount of money that you want. So if you wanted to make 100 grand or 50 grand or 200 grand, you just contract a deal that's big enough and then you leverage debt against that property through fundraising. So on this particular property, I needed 460 to close. I went out, I borrowed $1 million. Okay. So I leave title company with a check for $500,000+ right on closing day. And I own 243 acres now. I got $0 into this thing. I don't have a dime into it. And I just extracted, $540,000 out of the front end of the property. On closing day, I didn't mention this to the seller, but I asked for, on the closing table is when I dropped the surprise, is, hey, based on my $460,000 up front, I want 50 acres free and clear, right? So roughly 8,000 an acre is what we're getting it for. So I'm going to give you guys the 460,000, but I want 50 acres free and clear. And while the seller's on the closing table signing documents is when they found out. So they had a couple of questions about that, but they went ahead and agreed to it. So now I leave title. I own 243 acres. 50 of which don't have any debt on them connected at all to the property. So I'm up 500,000+. I own 50 acres free and clear with no debt on it. And I own, 193 acres or something with that seller debt on it for that 1.6. We immediately brought in a buyer that bought 40 acres for 800,000 in cash. Right. And I'm talking about the guy showed up with a money counter and like bags of envelopes, $300,000. And then the rest went to the bank. So I got pictures with like stacks of cash like this, all hundreds. And so, yeah, I pulled out 805 and some change. So like 1.3 and some change out of the front end of this deal before it even got started. So now I have, right, almost $1.5 million to go out and invest into whatever else I want to moving forward. And now we're getting an engineer down to do 180 lots at 30,000 square feet. Rough sales between 79 and 89,000 per lot. You could do the math.
Is that finished lots or just paper?
Finished lots. That's roads, water, no septic, and electrical run throughout the site. No poles on the ground.
So what would your improvement cost per lot be?
It's like $1.5 million roughly for 180 lots. So if you want to divide that up.
Francisco, do the math. That's great, man. San Antonio's blowing up.
San Antonio, anywhere in Texas is red hot right now. I like Florida. I think Florida's red hot. I think that game will always be in place. But Texas is special because there's people coming here from all over the world, right? Not just from the inside of our own country. You have a lot of blue flight here, right? So you have people coming from blue states trying to get here. So there's just massive growth in every direction. But San Antonio, I think, is extra special because it's one of the last Texas cities that hasn't been like over industrialized, like you would see in Houston and Dallas, Fort Worth. Even though those are great markets, you know, they've been saturated for a very long time, so competition could be higher. But here around San Antonio, I mean, there's just so much green, it's crazy, and yeah, the growth here is explosive. If you just drive around, I mean, there's neighborhoods growing north, east, south, and west. There's neighborhoods popping up everywhere, apartment buildings, that kind of stuff. So that just speaks to the growth. One thing that we do specifically is we crop out the main county, right? So San Antonio is situated in Bexar County. We cut the county out entirely, and we don't do any marketing there. We do all of our marketing in the outskirts, and that's why you can find stuff that's, you know, 5, 6, 8,000 an acre if you're working in the outside, like counties surrounding the main county of a city. It's just an easy, low-hanging fruit where you could buy something for 20, 30, 40 cents on the dollar.
Anthony, I did have a question about, you mentioned that the buyer pool in San Antonio is like massive and it's always growing. For that particular deal that you were breaking down, how did you come in contact with the buyer, and how do you go about marketing your deals to find buyers?
So on the marketing side, I have no buyers list at all. Not even one person on my buyers list. We sell to the general public. And the reason we do that is because the general public is willing to overpay what the property's worth, right? So if you have a builder you're selling to, you know, he's only going to pay $45,000 per lot. Well, I could take that same lot here in San Antonio where a builder would pay $45,000, and I'm going to try to sell it for seller finance for $90,000, right? With $9,000 down. So here you can sell for pretty much whatever price you want, whatever you can get the sellers to pay for. So that's why we don't utilize a buyer's list. We do a lot of texting and calling of brokers and agents, and we do a lot of advertising on Facebook to get retail end buyers.
Nice. Sweet. Demar had a question in the chat that says, how do you know how much to offer per lot?
Well, we target larger lots on purpose, right? So our target deal is multiples of 10 acres. So I like to buy 20 acres, 30 acres, 40 acres, 50 acres, you know, as many as we can find. We have an offer out on 500 acres right now. We have one in Colorado we're looking at that's 1,000 acres right now. So as long as you buy in multiples of 10, it's easier to find something that's 20 to 30 cents on the dollar. So you find somebody that has a 100-acre tract. It's listed for $1 million, right? From round number 6, listed at $10,000 an acre. If I can go in that area and I can find that 10-acre tracts are selling for like 149, 179, 189, then I know that 100-acre tract is a deal, right? Because I can pick it up for 10,000, 8,000, 7,000, 9,000, anywhere in there. And it looks like everything's listed in 10 acres all the way up to 199,000. So we aim for 50% of what we're going to sell it for. So if I buy that 100-acre tract for $1 million, the reason you can get it for 50 cents is because you're buying 100 acres worth, right? There's no buyers that are going to come stroke a check for $1 million. They just don't exist. So what we do is we look to buy that property, break it up, and then that's how we can sell those tracts for 150 to 199 and double our money every ranch. So how do I know we're going to buy it or not? We'll do ghost ads on Facebook Marketplace. So we'll do an ad that doesn't have an address or a picture of the property. There's no way for the seller to come across my ad and say, hey, that's my property. So it's just an ad that shows the general area. So if my target sales price is going to be 10 acres for 179, then that's what we'll push them out at. Let's say everything in that area is listed and selling for about 199. I'll have our guys list a 10-acre tract for 179 and see what happens. And of course, you start getting tons of messages, then that tells me that 179 is going to be a good sales price. If the market does not respond to 179, then we'll lower to 169, 159. And then we have an idea, okay, this area is not going to move for any better than about 160. Then that gives me a good reason to go back to that seller and say, hey, I'm at 800,000 for this property. Because again, we're aiming for a 2x multiple on our cash. So now I'm not going to offer $1 million for that property. I'm going to offer 8,000 an acre for a cash close, right? Knowing that I'm going to sell my 10-acre lots for 160. And then we put 2 offers into with every single seller. We offer that cash and we offer seller finance. So if it was going to be cash, then we're going to hit them at 800. If they're willing to carry it short term for us on seller finance, then we'll offer like 12 to 36 months balloon with like 5-10% down. But we'll offer the full million, because now again, like we're thinking in terms of what's the multiple on our cash. If I put in 5 or 10% down on that million, right, my cash out of pocket now is only 100 grand. So now I put in 100 grand and I'm aiming to make $1 million profit. So I'm looking for like an 8 to 10x multiple off that 100. So that's why I'm willing to pay that full million, because I already know I'm going to get an 8 to 10x multiple. So yeah, you can have the extra 200,000. But if they want cash, we're going to hit them between like 700 and 800 cash, close in 90 to 180 days.
So hey, I have a couple questions, kind of a two-part question then. Because obviously if you can get them to finance it, then that's ideal. So then do you guys use kind of private lending for that? And then also kind of, I've spent the last couple of months making my focus trying to find, investors to do things like that with. And so I was just curious, like, is that who you use? And then also kind of how do you market for those type of lenders?
Yeah, so right now we're like 99% private capital. I took out my first 2 hard money loans recently, just because the money's so cheap.
Yeah.
Primarily it's all private. Attracting private capital is for just relationship building, right? Having introductions, but also investors that they hear the same thing every day, right? Especially like in the house flipping world, where you can offer them back 9%, 10%, or 12%, and that's a difficult ask, right? Because I can park it in the stock market and get 8 or 9% or whatever, and never have to think about it again. Of course, if you're thinking in long term, like 20 and 30-year cycles. But with land investing, it's really interesting, because you tell somebody, hey, I can get you a 20% return, and they look at you like you have a hole in your head, right? And they're like, man, like 20%, that's not sustainable. But you guys just heard, like, I'm looking for like a 5 to 10x multiple. So if I'm going to make 500% or 1,000%, like, I'll give you the 20. The 20 is okay, not too bad, So
and then I guess do you keep giving them 20% on deals that they continue to fund for you?
We can go way beyond 20%. I have some investors right now that would pay 50% return, 100% return. So 20 is just enough to, like, it's high enough to like perk their ears up. But even at 20, it's kind of hard to believe for a normal investor. So when we throw those kind of numbers around, if somebody's really savvy or they have access to a lot of capital, they're going to want to hear what you have to say.
Are you structuring that as debt or equity?
We'll do both. Yeah, no preference either. Like, whatever makes that person feel comfortable, we'll go with them.
Nice.
We turn down a lot of money too, right? There's a lot of guys that say, hey, if I'm going to give you 500,000, I want control of this and I want control of that. And we're like, have a nice day. We appreciate your time. That's it. We don't want that money. We want money that's quiet, easy to work with, non-problematic, like, just get in the deal. So what we do is we pay a flat rate, right? If you go beyond 18% loan that you're charging somebody, 18% in real estate, it's usury, right? You get in trouble, big trouble with the federal government. We pay back a 20% flat rate. So let's say in December, somebody sent us $408,000 to buy 18 acres, and we sent them back 637 in 20 days. Okay, so if you do the numbers on that, I mean, it's like way beyond usury. It's like multiples beyond usury. So we offer a flat rate back. Like, we don't offer, there's no term. So like in 6 months or 12 months, you get this or that. They get paid out when the property sells. So that's why sometimes we prefer to have them in as an equity partner, because then there's no debt service. There's nothing. It's like, hey, you're getting your money when the property sells, and you just stay nice and quiet until we get there, and that's it. If not, you'll have your debt service will just eat you alive, especially if you're out, leveraging $20 million worth of land.
On those debt deals, are you securing it against the asset, just doing a secured promissory note, or is it just a lending agreement between you and the company? Or your company? And
99% of the time it is secured against the property.
Got it.
I got a 2-part question for both Anthony and Mason. So once you're getting into the space of raising capital for your deals, right? What are some of the things that you have to have readily available, right, to people that you're pitching, you know, like, hey, I'm raising money to fund these deals? What are some of the things that you need to have, you know, like at your disposal in order to be able to have someone feel comfortable giving you money?
Anthony, you want to go first?
Sure, man. I was going to ask you if you wanted. So I think on hand, first things first is you want to have just like your basic tools. It's going to be a basic pitch deck that shows the property, what you're picking it up for, what you're planning on putting into it, what you're planning on doing to it. If you have contractors' estimates, those kinds of things help. Some people like to see it detail-rich information, and some guys don't want any details at all. They just want a overhead snapshot. So a basic spreadsheet that just shows where the deal is, what it is, diagrams, how you're planning to split it up, what improvements are going to be made, and then potential exit on that thing. And that's a double-edged sword, because if somebody's going to give you 200 grand and they're going to get a 20% return, and they see that you're making 800,000, they're going to say, wait a minute, why am I only getting 20 grand if I'm the one funding the whole deal? That's going to be, I think, the most basic thing of what you need. I can go a little bit deeper, but I'll let you go next, and maybe I'll just feed off of what you have.
Yeah, so I think to build off what Anthony said, it depends on what I'm raising money for. If it's an individual property, I send it to just my typical investors and say, hey, this is the return I'm offering, which I do kind of like a tiered interest promissory note where, you know, within 30 days it's 4%, within 60 days it's, you know, 5% or 6%, all the way up to, you know, 13, 14%. You know, and I have the cash on cash return in one column and the annualized return in the other one. So where, you know, 4% in 30 days is like triple to quadruple digits. And it's something that, you know, the way you structure the agreement makes it so where, just like Anthony says, you have to be careful about usury laws and how that kind of works and everything, depending on what the returns are. And whether you end up offering, you know, a 1099 INT to your investors or a K1, depending on the structure. So, and then I think in my fund, it's a pitch deck, but what gets the most investors attracted to it is I just send them a deal compilation of like the last 100 deals I've done. And they see, you know, a median cash on cash return of like 65%, with a average or a median dollars deployed at like 62 days. And they're all in. And then recognizing it's a two-way street. I have zero interest in any active investors. If if you are an active investor, I don't want to work with you unless you are doing something with the property. There are those people like what Anthony's talking about of they want to give you 250 grand and they want, you know, weekly updates on the property and you know, they want to be involved in the calls with the county and all this other kind of stuff. And they don't know jack shit about land. So I don't have any interest in working with them. But yeah, I think that's the main points. And Anthony, I'm excited to be on this call with you. I used to live in San Antonio. I've got a buddy that just did a startup out there that just bought land in Sabinal, like west of D'Hanis. And they 100 acres, and they're doing a like restorative regenerative farm business model. So they might be an end buyer for you with any farmland that you're getting that's just kind of withered away. They started a company, Chetty's cheese cracker company, and they've exited, and now they're doing farmland stuff. So we should have an offline conversation.
Dude, this is what I love more than anything. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen our brand online, but it's called Hive Mind, and it's for that specific reason, right? I have a saying. I don't know if I made it up or if I heard it somewhere, but I said there's an infinite amount of leads out there, an infinite amount of properties, and there's also an infinite amount of capital out there, but no one entity ever has all of it at the same time. Right. So by us making connections like this, you might have a capital need, right? And I have somebody who's beating down my door that has capital, because how is it when somebody has capital ready to deploy? I mean, they're after you, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and yeah, we should chat. I've got several hundred acres I'm buying out in Colorado. I live in Colorado now. So be interested to hear about your 1,000 acres you're doing, and you know, maybe there's some collaboration we can do with a handful of these projects I have going on.
Amazing, man. Yeah, looking forward to it. And that's what we're always looking for. I had a vision for this company of what I wanted it to look like, feel like, and act like. But the reason we called it Hive Mind is because it was going to be a people-based business. So making those connections, JV opportunities, helping each other do different things. And I really believe in that, man, from the core of my heart. I've been a solopreneur my whole life. And, I've thought about doing real estate at a high level. I'm like, I'm not going to do this on my own. I'm gonna lean on other people. I'm gonna tap into as many people as I possibly can. And I would say right now, probably 90 to 95% of my deals are JV deals because I believe in it that much. So I'm willing to have a deal where I know I'm going to make 50,000, right? It's going to probably take me 30 days or 90 days to complete. I would rather give somebody half of that equity to take the deal and run with it and never talk to me about it again, right? So what does that look like? I'll get a text message or a lead on Facebook from a property. We underwrite it quickly. I have a team that does that now. I'll say, yeah, this is a tremendous opportunity. It looks like 60 grand or whatever. I'll send it to somebody that I know that's capable of fulfilling that deal. Maybe they have access to the capital. They can raise it. They know what to do. They're trustworthy. I don't have to think about it anymore. I'll just send them that lead and say, here's a $60,000 deal. I want half. The deal's already done. Here's all the contracts. Sign this, sign that. I'm out. And then I'm done. Then I never have to think about that deal again. And so I effectively made 30,000 with like 3 or 4 text messages, stuff like that. So that's what I'm aiming at is to continue that model where I can remove myself from these larger scale transactions and just participate in about 50% of the revenue without having to actually do the deal myself.
Sweet. Good info. Anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question.
Okay, man.
I can go?
Yep,
Please.
go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, I want to ask you about the 50 acres free and clear part. What made you ask for 50 acres free and clear, and what would be the seller's incentive to give you that?
Well, for one, they're getting a 400 grand in their hand, right? So now they have some sort of tangible asset in their hand. So my logic was thinking, hey, well, what do I get for my 400 grand? Well, like, well, you have a ranch, yeah, but I don't actually own anything yet. You still have debt against all of that. So I just took 50 acre or 400,000 divided by 8,000 an acre is roughly what we were picking it up for. And so that was about 50 acres. So I just threw a Hail Mary and just asked if I could possibly get that free and clear. I didn't even know if they were going to say yes or no. But yeah, I'm glad they said yes. But that was the thinking there. It's like, hey, I'm going to give you guys a substantial amount of cash and I don't really have anything to show for it. So that's what I said. Hey, I'll give you the 400, but I need a section of this free and clear to satisfy lenders, to be more liquid on my side if I'm going to give you guys all my cash.
Okay, now the timing you did that was the timing was like at the closing?
I didn't let them know that I wanted 50 acres free and clear until they were signing closing docs.
Would you have walked if they didn't give it to you?
I would have tried to renegotiate. I would say, hey, well, I got to get 45. I got to get 40. I got to get something. I didn't want to walk because I knew this was going to be somewhere between like 5-10 million profit. So I would have probably took 0 free and clear if push came to shove. Yeah.
Interesting. And what does your team look like on the dispo side and acquisition side?
Okay, so acquisitions, man, think of this as like a multi-level marketing environment almost. So it was a true MLM at one time because we had a white labeled software product on Go High Level that we launched. We hired a multi-level marketing attorney, consultant, a firm. So that was real heavy. It made over $1 million in 2022. But it slowly but surely started to disintegrate when now everybody and their mother had launched a Go High Level platform, and now everybody's selling a CRM. So I think it's smart to have a CRM. I think everybody needs one. So I understand why entrepreneurs offer that as a product. But the sales weren't as sustainable as we thought it was going to be without having our own proprietary software. But the community behaves like a multi-level marketing company where people are coming on board and then the community wraps around them to help new people with contracts, leads, lead generation, absolutely everything. So on acquisitions, I mean, really for my in-house team, there's only about 4 guys that kind of touch every single lead that comes from all sources now. So we have like 2,600 YouTube videos. We have like going on 600 podcasts. So now the traffic's coming from everywhere. So we have a lot of inbound leads that way. So we don't have any paid marketing at all right now on acquisitions. Everything comes from the community, about 4 underwriters that work with us. But I mean, literally there's maybe 500 people out there sending us deals on a regular basis. So that's on the acquisition side. For Dispo, I have a Facebook Messenger chat, and there's almost like 40 or 50 people in there now, and all those people are just doing anything and everything that we can to push these deals out. So they're doing Facebook, calling brokers, texting brokers and agents, RVMing them, all that outbound stuff. But nobody's exclusive to any of the properties. Like we picked up 160 acres in Tyler right now that we're cutting into like 10 and 15 acre lots. I signed a listing agreement with an agent who's a friend of mine in Tyler. So that was another vision we had for HiveMind. We want one major player in every major city in the United States that we could just refer all of our business to. So I put that listing agent on the Tyler property. He hasn't even put his listing up yet. And I already have 3 properties sold off of that out of 13, out of that 160 acres. So he's making 3% of 3 deals that he didn't even have to market for. But that's the acquisitions in the dispo side. It's just kind of like a free for all with just guerrilla marketing on the dispo side.
Wow. So if you're getting deals on the market, like on MLS, you're going to push it through Facebook Marketplace. And if you get deals off market, you send them to real estate agents?
Yes, yeah, we'll blast agents and brokers and wholesalers for that matter. Everybody makes fun of wholesalers and agents. I work with them every single day, right? Because they're out there, they're resourceful, they're spending their time and money to move properties. So just again, for example, on that Tyler deal, like I said, like that is an on-market deal. So we got the deal with our purchase and sell agreement. We have written permission into our contract to market the property both on and offline. So we took that 160 acre tract. We drew up a diagram with a surveyor to show how we're going to break it up. And then we're going to list one of those 10 acre lots on MLS anyway, again, because again, nobody can come in and buy a 160 acre tract because people don't have $1 million cash laying around. But we can list one 10 acre tract off of that property and list it for 99K or 89K, whatever it is, as a loss leader. So we're getting MLS traffic, right, for that property. It's not going to get as much traffic as a 160 acre tract, but it's going to get massive traffic at 10 acres for 89,000 or 79,000, whatever loss leader price we create. So just because it's on market doesn't mean that you can't relist it on market as a different property.
So are you changing zoning and making variances?
I've only ever done like 3 variants and zoning changes, so that's not really part of our core business model. We go specifically after unrestricted land, so that you don't have to rezone anything. Most of the time, if it's off a highway, you could just use it for commercial and nobody cares. And that's why we work outside of the main part of the county, again, because when you're out in the rural areas, there's not too much oversight as far as like zoning and that kind of stuff. They're just happy to have the business there.
So what is the zoning on those properties?
Unrestricted, mostly
Unrestricted.
agricultural. There's agricultural unrestricted.
Okay, so you come in and you break it all up and then you say it's going to be residential and they don't care?
Yeah, that's fine. Nobody's going to bother you. You could use it for commercial, residential, industrial. Nobody cares.
That applies to Texas or most of the states you're working in?
Man, I can only speak for Texas. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
More questions?
Yeah, a question.
Yeah. So Anthony, I've never bought on seller financing and then gone through either, a minor or major subdivision process. Is there a due on sale clause or anything like that? Or how's it structured going through, any level of entitlement or lot split on seller financing?
So you figure most of these property holders have had this property their whole life. It's been in their family for multiple generations. So they're not savvy real estate investors, right? These guys just through luck of the draw ended up with millions of dollars in farmland because it was passed down in their family. So they usually don't have any reference point or any knowing of due on sale clause and that kind of stuff. So you don't want to confuse these people, right, and get them legally tangled up. So all we do is we aim to negotiate for a partial release of lien on those lots we sold. So If they financed or contracted me 100 acres and I got a buyer for 10 acres, I'll work on getting a partial release of lien for that 10 acres as it's sold off. And typically what we do is to incentivize the seller to release that property to us, we'll just give them 100% of the proceeds minus like a wholesale fee or agent fees or whatever else we want to stick in our pocket. So we can get paid along the way too. So let's say we have a 10-acre tract and we're going to sell it for 149 off of 100. We tell the seller, hey, I'm going to need a release of lien for 10 acres. And typically if they sold it to you for 8,000 an acre and you say, hey, I need a release of lien, I'm going to give you 100 grand, for this 10-acre lot. Typically they're okay with it because they're getting more than the per acre price you agreed on. And then that allows us to stick 50,000 in our pocket and pay agents and do whatever else we were going to do there. Pretty
Makes
easy
sense.
to navigate that.
Is it your title company that creates that, or is it your attorney that does that for the partial release of lien?
Yeah, and our title company is so familiar with our deals now, they can pretty much just drop all the docs that we need, minus lender docs. I still have my attorney drop lender and investor docs.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Great question.
Any other questions?
I haven't been monitoring the chat, so I don't know if there's anyone there. I'm just going to check it real quick.
Yeah, I think Lamar said, anyone have buyers in Aurora, North Carolina?
What is it, land?
Is it land, Lamar? Is he still on? I think he might have hopped off. Oh, wait, no, he's still there.
So you guys,
I'm here. Yeah, it's land. It's like almost 5 acres.
Hmm?
Yeah, I reached out to I was marketing in Florida, but the seller said he has land in North Carolina. He's not selling in Florida.
Yeah, North Carolina is really hot, especially like the closer you get to Charlotte, those kinds of things. I
I have
think
some land available outside Asheville too.
He's asking for like 70K.
so. What I would do, right, if I'm going into a new market that I'm unfamiliar with, I would start with a ghost ad. That would be step one. So I'd go to Facebook Marketplace and I would list a property that's similar to that one. It would just say 5 acres, right, Aurora. No pictures of the property. Usually I'll just go to Google Earth and we'll zoom out so you can it'll say Aurora on there on the on the Google Maps, and I would just use that as my image. So I put that on Facebook Marketplace and put it at your target sales price. So just put a price tag on there, seller wants 70, put it for 99 and see what happens. That'll tell you if you have a deal right away. If the market doesn't respond to 99, drop it to 95. A few days later, drop it to 90, drop it to 85, and just keep going down until you get a response, and then you know what to offer the seller. And chances are you already have a buyer as well, right?
So go ahead and lock it up.
Sorry?
Go ahead and lock it up. Because I don't have a buyer, I didn't lock it up.
The way that we do it is our ghost ad comes even before the contract. So the caveat there is you can't market a property you don't have under contract. So you still can't give these people that are blowing up your messenger, you still can't give them the address because you don't have it locked up. But if you get 60 messages in 24 hours, then you know your price is phenomenal, probably safe to lock it up. And we still put a clause in there too that says that we have the right to cancel for any reason during the contract. And we try to cancel if we have to as soon as possible, right? So if you have a seller and you have 30 days to sell that property, and 6 days in, 7 days in, you're getting no hits at all, then it's best to let that property go, sooner than later, as opposed to holding them all 30 days and then on day 30 canceling, or day 29, just as a courtesy. But that's what I would do, man. If it's an area I'm unfamiliar with, I would just run ghost ads on that and see what kind of responses you get. So you can buy a property and sell it for less than you bought it for and still make money, right?
Okay.
So you can, let's say I'm going to use big numbers because it works better in big numbers, and I don't have a calculator in front of me, but if somebody wants to punch it in. Let's say you bought a property for $1 million and you got 30-year seller financing on it and a 10-year balloon, just for round number sake again. And you bought the property for $1 million, 0% interest. Well, you can break that thing up into 10-acre lots or sell it outright as is for $950,000 at 10 to 12% interest. And then you could just make a monthly arbitrage spread on there of the cash flow. So you sold at a $50,000 loss and your cash flow is like 3 to 6 grand a month or something on that property. So if a seller wants too much money, you can still make it a deal depending on what terms they give you. So let's say they have a lot that's worth 100 grand and that's what they want for it, and that's retail. So if they can give you that $100,000 lot for 0 down and 0% interest, right, or as close to it as possible, you turn around and you sell the thing for 150, right, with 10% down. So now you got 15,000 down you could put in your pocket minus your closing costs, and then you could make that cash spread on the interest. So we turn around, we sell everything we have for 11.99%. So if you picked up that property for 100, and that's all it's worth, and you turn around and you sell it for 100 at 12% interest, there's a cash flow to be made on there, even though you sold it for the exact same price that you bought it for.
Anthony, you might have to run that back because you threw me off when you were like, you could still make money on a deal selling it less than what you bought it for. I was like, wait, hold on, I'm trying to calculate the math. But
yeah, I was taking notes and like, what?
What the hell is this guy talking about?
With that. Can you briefly just run that back again? Because I think the main point was you're making money on the arbitrage with the cash flow, right? You're not necessarily making money on the resale, right?
Yeah, just because you're not gonna make any money on the price of the deal, you can still arbitrage out the cash flow. So that's why we make a cash offer and a seller finance offer. And the closer they get to the longer they give you for seller finance and the better terms they give you, the higher offer you could make.
Oh, okay. And then so basically, I want to make sure I'm following correctly. So let's just say you have a seller, they're asking $1 million, and then you agree to the $1 million, and then you're agreeing to monthly payments with the seller directly, right?
Yeah. So like on our property right now, I owe $4,500 a month, 0% interest on this $1.6 million loan.
Mm-hmm.
So if I turned around and sold it for 12% interest for the same 1.6 that I bought it for, even 1.57, right? I'd sell it at a little slight loss. The adding that interest makes up for that debt. It makes up so that way now I'm making 0 up front, right? Or a down payment from the end buyer, but now I can just sit on that monthly cash flow and make that 12% interest spread. So you're looking to arbitrage cash, right? When you buy a lot, you sell it for a profit, but you can also arbitrage the interest.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So you can buy and sell for the exact same price and just tack your interest on, and now you got a killer deal.
Gotcha. And as long as the end buyer is paying you more monthly than you're paying the seller, that's how you still cash flow.
That's it.
Ah, okay.
And then creating notes out of thin air. So we have a property we picked up. Wanted like 20,000, 25,000. I offered him 8. So the guy took it. So I got 5 acres for 8 grand. I turned around and sold it for $8,000 down and $400 a month for 5 years. So I bring 0 to the closing table, and I'm making $400 a month for 5 years straight. Bringing 0 into you can do deals like that too, where your down payment covers the price, or at least a good portion of it. So that's why we always make 2 offers, cash and finance, because if we arbitrage cash based on the sale price, then we're going to try to arbitrage the interest rate and cash flow.
Nice.
So every 2 offers.
Nice. Chris, go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah. So are you allowed to, like, our investors are allowed to make improvements on these seller finance properties? Like,
yeah, there's a lot of back and forth in the land investment community. My mentor said, hey, if they want to improve it, then it's not going to hurt my pocketbook. If I got a foreclosure on it, you get it back, and it's better condition than the sold. So I let them do whatever they want there.
So it's mostly just an agreement between you and the seller, as far as what the seller would allow, as far as like they don't care if you want to make an improvement or whatever.
Yeah, and that's what we negotiate too with the sellers, is like, hey, I'm buying this thing with the intention of reselling it, so I'm going to make improvements here, and possibly a lot of improvements, just FYI. So a lot of ground rules need to be established with these sellers before you take the property on. I think the earlier you do that, the better. Making sure that the seller fully understands what they're getting themselves into. You'd rather, I think in wholesaling, there's like a little bit of a sleight of hand. Like you want to give the seller some information, but not everything. And we give them everything. I teach them about wholesaling. I teach them about double closing. I teach them about wraps. I teach my sellers about everything so that they're an educated seller. And I say, hey, even if you don't do this deal with me, at least you'll be able to make a better decision on selling this property moving forward. What happens? They end up going with you anyway, even if your offer is less than what their best offer is. I've had people give me properties where I'm 30,000 cheaper than their best offer, and they still decided to go with us just because they trust us more. And then also, we salt the earth behind us. So, like on Tyler, we gave them 50,000 the day we signed the contract. So, and we send it straight to their bank account. So we send it to title with a release to send straight to their bank account. So look, Mr. Seller, I know you said you had higher offers than mine, but here's the thing. You don't even know if that's a real offer. You don't know if it's a wholesaler. You don't know who it is. You don't even know who you're dealing with. Did they say they were going to give you $50,000 the day you signed the contract? No. Yeah, they probably said it doesn't work like that. And you need to wait 3 months. You need to wait 6 months. They probably told you something like that because they don't have the money. You sign the contract with me, I'll send you $50,000 tomorrow. And they're like, I like this guy. All right. So the more you teach each other, the better you're going to be in our business. So we don't try to do any sleight of hand. We give them everything.
Okay. Yeah, so one thing I've heard, or at least in my market, is that money is so expensive right now, and that banks won't lend to builders. They can't get construction loans to improve a property that they're paying making payments on to the seller.
Yeah, all true. All true. There's hardly any money in the system for that right now. And even if I could borrow $5 million from Wells Fargo, I probably don't want it, right? I'm getting it for 9%. And my model doesn't work anymore. Turn around and land for 12% because I'm only making a 2% spread. But if I can get 0% from the seller, well, it gives me a lot of opportunity to sell that property in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
Well, Anthony,
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
Heck yeah, great question.
Great question, Chris. We got a question in the chat from Reagan. She's asking, do you use a realtor to list it, or do you use an online service where you can list yourself on an MLS that allows it to be seen on realtor.com and etc., or do you just use Facebook?
I like to use realtors, man. They can keep that 3% if I can have all of my time back. You just heard me say I'll give up 50% of the deal to have my time back. So paying an agent 3%, like, please take this load off my hands for 3%. Thank you. And then I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to I've never drawn up a real estate contract in my life, just FYI. But yeah, I don't have to stop to do anything. I let the agent run with it. And then there's no arguing with our agents, right? Because we love them. Like I said, we're trying to build a network. We're not trying to arm wrestle people for 1 or 2%. So if I have an agent on the property, I don't care if they sell it or one of my sales team sells it, they're still going to get their full 3% or 6% or whatever they're getting on that property. Like I posted one today on my Facebook page where I'm offering the buyer's agent 5%. Like we don't even care. Like just as long as the deal gets done, let's go.
Yeah.
Because do you own all those that you're selling, or are they just under contract with realtors?
I would say that we probably own 90% of what we're selling, maybe 80%. But like in this case with Tyler, right, we're publicly selling it on and offline, with the realtor, right, even though it's already listed with the realtor. And we gave them $50,000 refundable. So as far as I'm concerned, that's my property. If the seller says, hey, we decided we're going to go a different route, like I'm still about it. So
Going in and out a little bit.
yeah.
Anthony, you were going in and out a little bit, I think.
Okay, is that better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we make use of all channels, man, on and off market, everything that we can do. So for me, there's nothing that's off limits, nothing. Like I said, calling agents, calling brokers, posting on Craigslist, OfferUp, anywhere and everywhere that we can get eyeballs. And then lots of paid advertising too. So we give our salespeople money to put ads in.
Anthony, I had a quick question about your strategy with like the EMD and sending it straight to seller. I don't know if you still do this, but if you do, I would appreciate if you could like break it down a little bit. Do you still do gator lending?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I think mentioned it in the beginning of this call. I think where all real estate investors should aspire to get to is selling money, right? The only reason that we need assets is to move capital around and have it backed by something, right? But if we were all men and women of our word, we wouldn't even need the assets to do what we do. But the assets act as a backstop to give us permission to legally sell money at multiples of usury rates. Right. So with Gator lending, the term is kind of misleading because you're not a lender at all. You're coming in as an equity partner. And if you do, there's no cap on what you can charge for that money. So for instance, I lent 100,000 about 5-6 weeks ago, and they're going to send us back 150 like here next week. So, you know, you can't charge $50,000 worth of interest for a $100,000 loan in any world, right? Without getting a 3-letter agency to knock on your door. But in our world, in Gator, it's just whatever you and the wholesaler agree to. So you have a deal and you need $100,000. I can borrow 100 grand for like 10 to 20 in 15 minutes. And a lot of times my lenders don't even look at the deal. They just say, hey, you need 100. How much are you paying for it? I'll give you back 12 grand, 15 grand. And they're like, okay, cool. Send me the paperwork. They don't even underwrite the deal. They don't look at it. They don't ask about flood zone or utilities or nothing. They just wire the 100. They just trust that I'm going to perform. And then, so I know that if you need to borrow 100, it's going to cost me 10, 15, possibly 20. I can turn around and sell that 100 for whatever I want now. So that 100 cost me 115, but you need 100 to put into your deal. I'm going to try to get it to where if I put that 115 in, I want to try to pull back like 50 grand, 60 grand, 80 grand. And I'm fine with you making half, right? If you're going to make 40 and I'm going to make 40 and it's somebody else's 100, let's do it. So I think Gator lending, like I said, it gives you permission to sell money at any price you want at multiples beyond what should be or would be considered illegal.
And
that's why
there's agreement between the parties, everything's fine.
Private deal. So the government doesn't care if me and you do a 50-50 JV deal, right? And the government doesn't care if I pay back my lender beyond 18% because they're not lending me anything. They're an investor putting money into a deal. So we're operating right outside the red tape of those laws.
Nice. Sweet.
So even if you don't have the money, I would still recommend that you at least advertise that you are selling money, because you never know what you're going to get yourself involved in, right? It could be a deal where, like you said, where you make $1,000 in a month by placing a relatively small amount of capital that would be hard to do in a real estate deal. So what you'll end up with is a sea of people putting deals in front of you. And if you know how to underwrite, if you have an underwriting team, yeah, you can just arbitrage crazy amounts of capital in minimal amount of time, probably faster than you would be able to do even going out and generating your own leads and selling your own deals, right? So if you work money full time, I mean, that would be a tremendous business.
And you're just still connecting the dots to make things happen.
That's all this is based on. There's unlimited properties and there's unlimited capital, right? So if you serve as the middleman, then you can just write whatever amount of money you want.
Man, I definitely learned a lot on this call. Anthony, you came with it, so I definitely appreciate you guys. We could do one more round of questions. I know it's already 3:05. We're a little bit over. But yeah, go ahead and we could do one more question and then we can go ahead and disperse for today. Anyone want to take the final question?
Yeah, I got one.
Go ahead.
What have you read? What book would you recommend? What would you say has been the most influential on you and kind of with your ideas on real estate investing and building your business model?
Man, it was a lot of them. I think reading books on seller financing, right, and mortgages and notes. If you get into a space where you're writing paper, writing mortgages, you're a money printer, right? You heard me say it on this call. You get a lot for 45,000 and you're happy to sell it to a builder for 55. I buy that same $45,000 lot. I'm gonna try to sell it for like 100 grand with 10% down, right? So maybe I made nothing up front, right? But I just created on paper, I just created $55,000 at 12% interest on a deal where you might have made 10 and walked away. Eddie Speed is a great resource. We've interviewed him, but he has like high level stuff where once you get to this level, you got to buy something, and it's very expensive. There's a lot of books out there that you can find. Just go to go to Amazon and just type in books on seller financing and note investing. And I think you probably find enough stuff on YouTube to just saturate your mind. But like I said, what we're doing in real estate is we're just using real assets as a backstop to print money. So I would say find any and every content you could find on creating notes and those types of properties, and you'll learn how to print money. I like the art of the deal a lot. That's a really good one too, that helped me kind of like adjust myself to know that you don't exactly have to win on every transaction like that. Like right now, I just did a deal for my wife's friend. I put 31,000 in and I made 1,000, but everything went successful. Got the lady through a divorce. She didn't crash her credit. So it cost me $30,000 to help a friend, but I didn't lose anything. Right. So I think The Art of a Deal is a good book that expresses a lot of different angles for you to be able to see deals and look at deals as opportunity more so than like, what can I gain out of this? I think you makes sense to be an opportunity finder where you spot holes that can be filled, right? And again, like sometimes if somebody has excess capital they need a place, maybe you're the one finding those deals. But on the other side of that, finding the deals and then connecting them to the capital. And if you get really good at that, then you could just make as much money as you want. You could just print money whenever. Because this is our first year. We've had two months where we've done over $1 million. And I think that's the only thing that changed, is that instead of us thinking about generating the assets and then selling them to an end user, being more like a processing company, some similar to a credit card, where you can arbitrage and make the middle of everything that you touch, everything, be it moving capital and assets. So I think that's one thing people leave out, is the importance of going out and raising the capital, because I've heard of a fund, like a private equity fund, they raised like $100 million, and the best deal they could find is they lost 1%. That's the best possible amount of money that they could produce, was a 1% loss. So knowing that there's money out there in that mass that's that dumb, you should get good at selling money into good deals and work from both sides of it. And you'll go a lot further faster, and you'll learn this game a lot faster by just being like a transaction engineer. But a lot of it starts with just, like I said, learning about creating mortgages and notes. That'll take you further faster than what you could get from just buying and selling real estate.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to learn more about all this. That's probably been one of my favorite calls so far, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you for having me on, man. I'm happy to do it again sometime. Just let me know when you're ready. I appreciate you, Francisco, for having me on this, and thanks you guys for hanging out here with us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Anthony. Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you, man. Good to see you again.
Yeah, we'll catch up soon. We'll jump on the phone shortly after this and see what we can do together.
Looking forward to it, man. Maybe we'll grab a podcast or something.
Yeah, I'd love that. Love that. Thank you. And thank you everyone else for tuning in. I'll see you next Tuesday.
Y'all have a blessed day, man.
Thanks so much. God bless. Bye-bye.